I'd like to, first of all, tell you how I met Ted, who's going to be giving us our presentation on living with animals in the Coachella Valley. I was in my store a couple weeks ago, and I was standing there, and this woman pulled up in a brand new Lincoln Navigator, got out of her car, and left this cute little greyhound in her car. And you know, this is in mid-May, so I was pretty concerned about it. I didn't know how long she'd be gone, and you know, whether she left the air conditioning going. And she did have the windows down and cracked, I'll give that to her, but all in all, she was violating California law. So, being concerned about that, I called the police. I called 911, and she came back in the interim before anyone came, and she started to get into her car, and I walked up to her and I said, I called the police, and you're breaking the law. And she got mad at me, and she started saying this and that, the other things that I won't repeat, and told me I had nothing better to do and everything else under the sun. And all I can tell you is that she probably won't do it the next place that she stops her car. So, needless to say, she was gone, but Ted popped in, and I was apologetic to him that he came and there was nobody to talk to, and he explained to me how he's sorry too because he missed an opportunity to give somebody an education. So we have been concerned about this with our club. We have our sunshades, which I should be showing you right now, but I'm not, that we put in our cars and say, not even for a minute, don't leave your child or pet in the car. So I talked to Ted about the animal shelter and how we'd like to do a fundraiser with them, and he's given me the name of Pat Bayer, the new director there. Spoke to her, and she's going to be coming in 2 weeks, and the fellows, I contacted somebody at the Friends of the Animals, Palm Springs Animal Shelter, and he's going to be coming, and we're going to get a fundraiser going to distribute our sunshades and help out the animal shelter. So I'd like to welcome Ted up here, and he's going to talk about living with animals in the Coachella Valley, which is a nice way of saying, how do we deal with all the pests we've got?
Thank you. Again, I'm Ted with the City of Palm Springs Animal Control. Just as a brief background, I've been with the city for 28 years. Prior to that, for about 4 years, 4.5 years, I worked for a private organization down in Ontario and Pomona. I started my career down there doing cockfighting and all that kind of stuff. And then came out here to the desert, which was a place that I swore I would never come out to. My first experience was being out here trying to set up a humane wildlife law enforcement program in the middle of July at the Living Desert. Strange things happen in 3 years when you're getting married, the company you work for loses their contract, and you need a job. I came out here, I've loved it ever since, although now I was joking with the 2 folks from the high school that now that I'm over 50, the summers do seem a little bit harder than when I remember them a few years ago. I've been here, the shelter's just gone through a big renovation a couple years ago. The city still owns the property. We have contracted it out to Pat and the Friends of the Animal Shelter to run it and operate it. My partner and I work out of the police department. We respond to all the animal-related calls. We get calls like Mr. Reamer gave us. He was very polite, by the way. The reason I actually walked into his business was that was the address they gave me for the big exhibition. I couldn't find it. I honestly thought I was missing it. So I walked in going, is there one out there that I just don't see somewhere? That's when we started talking and invited me here. One of my backgrounds from college is dealing with wildlife. I got lucky enough when I was about 20 to take 6 weeks off and go up into Yellowstone with the park rangers on horseback and do a count of the grizzlies up there, at which time we counted There are now over 400 coming down from Canada into the continental U.S. California, even though it's our state bear, we haven't seen since 1950, and we probably won't for a few more decades. I don't think anybody's willing to bring a grizzly back into California, let it into the wild again. But here in our valley, we have certain animals, reptiles, and mammals that we deal with, that we have to live with. And forgive me, I will say that we encroach upon them. We have the rattlesnakes. We have other little snakes that are probably the best thing for you to have in your yards because they eat the mice and they eat the rats. We have the raccoons that dump your trash cans out to make sure that the salmon you didn't finish, they'll eat tonight. The coyotes, who have learned to adapt with us, eat the cat food. We have bobcats. About every 3 years, we have a female mountain lion come through with her cubs. And she ranges from the Mesa area up into Las Palmas, all the way down into Cedar City. And it's really cool to, if you get a chance to glance at her, to see her. It may not be what you think is cool, but from my end, it is. We also have bears that we get here. The last bear we had was a little California black bear. She was about 155 pounds. Got pushed out of her native area up in Whitewater. Came down here all the way to Cielo Vista School. So as a school teacher, animal control's responsibility was, gee, we have a bear. Okay, we grab what we have. We have a phone called the Fish and Game, now California Fish and Wildlife. They just changed their names as of January. And we start responding. And of course, we call our dispatchers. And our dispatchers, because we're a small community, are great people. We go, hey, we need you to call the school. We need you to have the school put on lockdown. We know the fire department's across the street. Would you have the guys go up on the roof and look? Our dispatchers went, we've done that, but Fire Station 3 will not go up on the roof. Why? Well, there's a bear outside. Thank you, and we're diddling around. We finally caught the bear after following it all the way up to the old granite construction site on North Indian. California Fish and Game, our general warden out here, and myself were able to trank it and relocate it, which is what we try to do. The old days of, oh, the animal needs to be destroyed because it's wandered into the areas. Fish and Game and most animal control agencies, humane organizations, we don't agree with that old philosophy. Nuisance wildlife, yeah, they can, but to get to that nuisance wildlife, believe it or not, it has to attack a person. So it has to go way up there. How many people have had a snake or a raccoon in their yard?
Skunk.
How many people know somebody who had a rattlesnake in their house? When you have those, you call animal control. You can call 911, you can call animal control directly. We'll get somebody out there as fast as possible. The hours that I'm not on duty and the police department are there, we have a few people who are crazy, like I am. I love dogs and cats, don't get me wrong, but give me a call for a snake in somebody's house, give me a call for an owl that's fallen out of the tree or a hawk. I'm there. That's what I love to play with. And I still have all my digit snakes. But you get that. What we ask of everybody is to watch it. Safely. Where is it? Because it is horrible to walk into somebody's house that's 2,000 square feet with all this nice furniture, bookcases, and they go, I don't know, I saw it over there about an hour ago. Okay, that's normally when I do a little shuck and jive and tell them that this probably went out the same way it came in. I'm not tearing somebody's house apart looking for this little snake. We have a lot of misperceptions, but the biggest thing is how do we live with them? We don't make ourselves an attractive nuisance. We don't leave pet food outside at night. We don't. And please, please, if anybody has their pets that they really love, understand, I love your pet too, but we don't go out at 5:30 in the morning at crack of dawn, aimlessly wandering through the wash with our dog off leash to let it go potty. That's called into the dirt. Plain and simple. If you figured it out, I'm not very politically correct. I'm a little blunt. But I figured 32 years ago I got in trouble for it once. I'll still do it again. But you have to be aware of where you're at. It's like if you went to New York City, downtown, Grand Central Station, you probably wouldn't be dressed to the hill, dripping of jewels, walk into a store, pull a wad of hundreds out of your pocket, and buy an ice cream cone. You have to do the same thing with your pets. Living around the wildlife that we have, and they adapt. If you ever want to have a good time, down in the Mesa area, over by Palm Springs Airport, about 2 in the morning, just go over and sit on a curb. Watch the raccoons come and go from the sewer system. They're living down there. They've made nests. If you really want to trip, open the sewer line up, walk down there. There are parts of the city you can drive a Mercedes through without hitting walls because it's so big. We've made natural dens and habitats. The coyotes, they're all over the place. They're in every wash, every golf course. How many golfers? They're there all the time. Why? Look at your water hazard. What's on the water hazard? Ducks, geese, coots, all kinds of stuff. What's the ball trying not to hit on the green? The jackrabbits, the ground squirrels. That's all food supply for these folks. We've made that. Now you live in here, no food outside of here, please. Make sure that you have light sensors on your outdoor house. It'll detract most of the animals. Raccoons will sit there for about 2 days. Oh, that light came on. Yep, it's off. Light came on. It's off. Nobody came out that door. I'll go dinner. And they'll do that. So make sure your trash cans are secure. Walk around your house. Look at your doors. Is there a crack on your sliding glass, on your sliders, that something can crawl into? If somebody can get their head under there, you're in your house. Same way with your piping. This time of the year we see a lot of the arachnids, and I'm not into those because they're icky little creatures. If I get a cockroach that crawls across me, I scream like a schoolgirl. That's just, they're dirty, they're filthy, they're nasty, and I'm off. But we deal with those every year. We have pest control coming. Well, they're coming into the houses for the same reason everybody else does. Food, water, and climate. Your backyard. We tried it, my wife thought I was nuts. We re-landscaped. I did 0 landscaping, and she goes, oh, that's because you're lazy, you don't want to mow the lawn. I have all my shrubs cut up 3 to 6 inches above the ground because I live up in Desert Hot Springs, right on the edge of Mission Lakes. I'm going to get a rattlesnake in my yard in no time flat. I've got a 3-year-old grandbaby who comes and visits and chases my Pomeranian around the backyard. I don't want her to find it. So everything's lifted up to where it's not moist, it's not cool, it's not secluded from. I've avoided all the snake problems. Very simple little things. You're out walking, coyotes are with you. Now here's old school. How many people remember meter readers? Okay. We used to teach a safety class with meter readers, and one of the best items I ever found for them was from an animal behavioralist in England. He suggested ammonia water, 50% solution ammonia water. And we know what that smells like to us. An animal smells anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 times better than we do. Now think of that odor hitting you in the face. What it does, you can carry in a squirt bottle, water piston. I know a couple of people who walk the wash every morning in Palm Springs, and they have one of those super soakers. It goes out 50, 60 feet. They have the ammonia water. Coyotes following behind you, get away. Maybe bang something together, make a loud noise. no problem. They adapt because they get used to you. They see you every morning and go like that. Maybe the old umbrella trick. She doesn't do anything. But she's walking with that sausage on 4 legs. Okay. One morning you're out there, you see him. I got my gun, my squirt gun. They get up to it. Wow. That's it. They'll back off. Even if you got lucky enough to hit them in the face, it will not be permanent damage. It won't burn their eyes, it won't go up in their nose, but they'll do a 360 on the ground, trying to get that off of you while you're beating feet across the highway. So no problem, you can do that. Bobcat, if you ever get a chance to go over onto Araby Drive and look up toward Bob Hope's old house, you'll see a series of caves in this mountainside. We have about 5 bobcats that live in our general area. Every year, they come down into Araby, they go down in the Mesa area, and they're really cool. One lady last year thought it was the neatest thing in the world. She kept walking out and taking pictures from about me to Mr. Wood. The cat never moved. It got so adjusted to it that it wasn't frightened, because the only thing it was click, click, and that was it. We suggested she squirts it with me. She hasn't seen it this year, because that's too close for simple. Bobcat weighs about 35 to 45 pounds. Put a paw about the size of my palm, my hand, here, with claws. The cat just tells you to get away from it. You have a household cat. You've been playing with it for a while, picking on it. It's tired. What's it do? Reaches out, swats. A bobcat swats you. That's permanent damage. So try to avoid them. They avoid you. Watch them from a distance. It's great. Cougars, we see them every once in a while. Most everybody hears them. Our bears are the same way. The last little girl that we had here, somewhere, and it was on my PowerPoint presentation, which I'm having computer problems. We won't talk about our earlier conversation about computers. I have a picture of my hand up to the bear's paw, and it's probably a good 2 inches over my hand. Then the nails come out about 4 inches. It's not something to be taken lightly. These are deadly animals. Rattlesnakes will find commonplace all over Palm Springs. I used to laugh and joke that, oh, it's just on the fringes. I picked up one on Ramon and Compadre a couple years ago. We've had people go hiking up in the foothills. We've had them up in Northern California and bring a rattlesnake back down into town in a sleeping bag. We get them from all over. They're deadly, but I'll tell you what, if you get bit by one, try not to panic too much. You have about 12 hours before you need to actually get to the hospital where you're going to have permanent damage. It's not something that's going to kill you on the spot. What does kill most people are 2 things. You panic, your heart beats, your respiration goes, and poison goes through your system real fast. The other part of it is the old days of, was anybody a Boy Scout besides me? Okay. How many people remember from first aid a few decades ago that, oh, you make an X across the fang marks and suck the venom out? Well, that's really cool, except for most people who make the X, cut tendon, cut muscle, cut everything. Now the person didn't die from the snake bite, it was infection or blood loss. Wow. Get the person calm, get them to the hospital. Our hospitals here have snake venom, anti-venom they carry all the time. If not, you get a helicopter ride to Loma Linda University, and they take care of you there. One of the worries that I have here, and my wife still wonders, and so does my former boss, why I ever stayed in the city of Palm Springs. My first week here, I got called out for a reptile. At night, my wife and I just sat down to have dinner, and we had a little, and nobody who's too young laughed, including you two. We had a little 78 Pinto runabout hatchback. And I, being on call, I put a dog carrier in the back of it. I carry the rabies control collar in the back of it. I got called to a house on Mesa where a gentleman had a heart attack 5 firemen standing around it, and there was a Nile monitor lizard that nose to tail tip was 6 foot long. The Komodo dragon is the giant, true dinosaur of the lizard family. Nile monitor lizards are just below that. They only grow up to about 8 feet instead of 12 and only weigh about 500 pounds. Kid had adopted it from a pet store we used to have in town that loved exotics. It got too big, Mom couldn't handle him feeding bunnies to it, told him to get rid of it. Well, he walked the crate out in the yard, told her she got rid of it, and he put it in the closet. Grandpa went to get a tie to go out to dinner, and the lizard came out. We had it at our office, we had it in our bathroom at the shelter for about 3 days. We finally got it down to the San Diego Zoo. That started me wondering how many people here have exotic reptiles, mammals that we don't know about. Our small earthquake in 1986 caused a small problem that a retaining wall fell down in Los Angeles. Our city responded to SWAT team for the neighbor because there was a cougar in the backyard. The problem was when they got there, the cougar was in a 60 by 30 cage, including a den with air conditioning, a waterfall, and they had an exotic permit to keep the animal from fishing. The cage was nicer than what my apartment was on East Palm Canyon, but they never told anybody they had it. And all I could think about was the poor cop going on a burglar alarm. Walk around the corner and go, kitty, and have a heart attack. We have a gentleman here in town who has, debatably, and he'll argue whether it's true or not, cheetah, along with 3 other chimpanzees, 2 orangutans, and a couple spider monkeys. We go over a year and we look at his cages with Fish and Game and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and we do it. The problem becomes, what happens if we have that earthquake? What happens? I know him. I know the cougar up in Las Palmas. I know a couple of exotics down on the south end. But what do I do with somebody who I don't know about? And this is it. So we even take phone calls. I think my neighbor has a monkey. Well, that's okay. We'll go out. Trust me, I'm not into seizing primates. I've watched a baboon rip a light bar off a patrol car. I've watched them do some really nasty things to people, and I've seen photographs of the one out of California at West Covina that mauled a gentleman to death. I don't want to come across those, but I'll take that phone call, and if I find out it's real, I'm calling Fish and Game. I'm calling somebody who knows what to do with those. Our policy on that is if one of those get loose, gentleman who owns a chimpanzee, he has a policy, he has a tranquilizer gun. If he misses, he'll look at the police officer and go, take care of it. Just stop it right off. When we had our last beer in town, we had a new female motor officer who responded with us. She thought I was joking when I said, take the shotgun and put some slugs in there instead of the regular shotgun pellets. When she got close enough to see the bear after I guarded it, she asked, you're not joking? I said, no, I'm serious. I have 1 dart. That's all I get to shoot. If I missed, and it's not like Wild Kingdom, I don't have moments to edit, rewind, and all this, it takes about 20 minutes for the tranquilizer to take effect. If this thing ran into, and luckily we were up at the Frito-Lay plant, if it had run into the Frito-Lay plant with all those people in there, what do we do? Well, you got to draw the line. Who's more important, people or the animal? Where I got in trouble 32 years ago, and I'll get in trouble, I love people. I'm sorry, people are more important than the animal. We can say we're sorry about everything on the animal, but a person's life is ultimate.